All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Soulful Sunday. I am your host, Akeem Art, and today in our safe space, we have with us communications coach, podcaster, and event host, Miss Noreen Daley. She's here to share her story about how she was born to empower. Good evening, Miss Daly. But before Miss Daly comes on, we have to interact with our viewers just a minute. So I'm going to ask Miss Grace Rose, good evening to you. Turn on your microphone, Miss Rose, and let us have a conversation. Good evening and welcome to Soulful Sunday.
Good evening, Mr. Arrett.
Good evening, Miss Rose. Nice to have you this evening.
Thank
So,
you.
Miss Rose, as an individual, I believe that is about empowering people. What are some of the ways in which you do so?
What are some of the ways in which I empower people?
Yes.
Okay. I believe when you first off speak into people's life,
Hmm.
try to see the positive in them, even if there's not much to see, and you can help to highlight those and to speak to what they can become, not to focus on where they are now, but what they can become, of
Hmm.
course, with God's help. That's one way I believe. I believe as an educator, I also
Hmm.
help to direct students towards their points of strength. Meaning you can sometimes recognize in students, that they might not be so much cut out for the sciences or they might not be so much cut out for the arts. You point to them, look at what their strength is. Is it the dramatic arts? Is it writing? And you help to point them towards your source of strength and try to lead them in that way. And sometimes just be a listening ears to hear
Hmm.
their story, their challenges, pray with them, encourage them, you know, and help to guide them along life's journey as best as you can. And sometimes it means to, in order to empower persons, you have to tell them your story, where you're coming from, what your struggles have been, so they can see that you're a real person and not just, you know, this giant of a person who nothing has ever gone wrong for. And when they can see your story, hear your story, and see where you are now, then I think that also helps to empower persons.
Awesome, awesome. So, Mrs. Rose, after doing all that you said, after empowering an individual or a group of persons, because you said you're an educator, you empower students. How do you feel as a person, or how did you feel after empowering?
Well, I it as a teacher, I can tell you when you see a student who start or shaky and you see them grow and mature into their purpose, it is one of the best feeling. There's not much money sometimes in education, but when you see how you impact a person's life and what
Mhm.
they turn out to be and how they are in turn impacting society, there's no monetary reward that can be equal to that feeling. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome there. So, Mrs. Rose, I'm going to ask you now, have you ever been in the position of empowering someone, but you did not? And why?
Have I ever been in the position of empowering someone and I have not?
Yes, and why?
Let me search diligently in my mind's eye.
Go
If
on,
I
sir.
have done so, it would have been inadvertently
Hmm.
in my head. If it was a case of omission or but it would have been so in that maybe I didn't know the challenges the person was having or didn't know, and so it was not done, but not deliberately. I don't think deliberately. No.
Okay, understandable. So, on you say you're an educator, as you mentioned, and as I said before, you're an educator. You empower students, but on what basis do you like to empower individuals, and why? Whether it be about life, marriage, well, school, because you're an educator. On what basis do you like to empower people?
Every area. Just the past Friday, I was having a class, and somehow the class turned from the content of the subject to speaking to students. There were some there who were literally idling, who had potential. I had to stop and address that issue and show them what they can become, but only if they decide to. And then it went on to Father's Day coming up, and students they were sharing how bitter they were towards their father. And I had to stop and address that about carrying this burden of being bitter, and even some who were Christians, and just speaking to them about the power of forgiveness. So it's just in the little day to day, you know, meeting with your students sometimes. And sometimes it's something as big as helping them to choose their career path when different institutions have offered them scholarships, and so which one would best suit them. Sometimes just looking at them, interacting with them, you kind of have an idea of where they probably want to go, even though they're not seeing it for themselves. So in the little details sometimes, and in the big details
Oh,
sometimes.
okay,
It
awesome.
varies.
Thank you, Mrs.
You're
Rose,
welcome.
for coming on Soulful Sunday this evening, and thank you for participating.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, so Miss Alicia Smith, good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining once again. How are you this evening?
Good afternoon. I'm good and thanks for having me.
Great, great, great. So I know that you are an individual that likes to empower young persons or even seniors. What are some of the ways in which you do so, Mrs. Smith?
Well, one of the things that I try to do is to get to know the individual because what works for A does not necessarily works for B. So what you have to do is that you'll have to just get to know the individual for who they are, understand, and then from there, you take it in terms of how you interact with them because sometimes persons maybe just want a smile, sometimes just to say you're looking good, a compliment, you understand, let them have that self-esteem, value themselves highly, let them know. Sometimes even sharing my own experience as a young girl growing up, you understand, in terms of some of the things that I would have encountered and they might be in a rebellious state, may eventually find out that whatever they have been through, it's not because it's meant for bad, but sometimes it's just tough love to make you come out to be something good in society. Because I, as a young girl growing up, I thought it was, they're just depriving me of things. And so some of these things that I would have been through, I would have be able to encourage um, younger persons because I really love to work with young people. And as you mentioned, adults just the same. I've grown to love and respect them because they always have good food for thoughts. And sometimes some of them, the way they would want to tell you how their child behave, you can impart word of wisdom to them just the same to let them know. Because one thing we have to realize is that then in comparison to now is different. So we have to just know how we go about doing what we have to do.
Definitely. So, Mrs. Smith, after empowering, how do you feel as a person?
I feel real good and encouraged. And the thing is that as you would know, I think by now, Mr. Hurt, the type of person, I am not the public figure. I don't
Right.
like when persons come and big me up. No. If I'm doing something, I like to do something in secret. So if I do something in secret, don't come and exalt me in the crowd or anything. I don't like it. After
Mhm.
I'm through and I see that, you're feeling empowered or feeling encouraged, motivate, because I think I'm a good motivator, then you take it from there. And then the rest you give it God the praise because I could not have done it without the help of the Lord because I have to put him in front in everything that I do. And so when all is said and done, and if you should come and say thank you, I said, give it to God. I cannot take it for myself because without his imparting those words of wisdom to me, I could not have given it to you. So I feel good. I feel a sense of accomplishment.
Awesome, awesome. So, Mrs. Smith, I'm going to ask you this very same question as I did with Mrs. Rose. So, have you ever been in a position of empowering someone, but you never did, and why?
Well, yes, I because I'm always this person who likes to work behind the scene. I would have
Mhm.
seen situation, but because I would feel the urge to do so, but because I'm saying no, sir, this is not my crowd at all, and I don't want nobody go say, but the way she push up, you understand? So,
Right.
so because of that, I would feel bad, and at the end of the day, yeah, you understand? I would realize that whatever would have done, I think I would have made a difference. Let me share you, for example, I went to a church service,
Go ahead.
and the moderator was saying, okay, they want persons, who feel like they have never get an embrace. Somebody just walk over. But the
Mhm.
church that they have persons that they believe are prayer warriors and persons that they believe are capable. So, you go as a visitor, I myself along with others, and there was this young girl. I saw her stand and I feel the urge so much. I want to go and embrace her. I want to say something to her. But, I was fighting it. Then I saw another lady. She was an evangelist visiting from another church because it was when the welcome was done where I know. And the lady
Uh-huh.
was moving. And let's say, for example, there is a Mary in the church who they believe is capable of doing it. The moderator keep emphasizing, did you hear what I said? I said, Mary, go and hug that young girl. Mary, go and hug that young girl. And I was saying, Jesus, me thank you, because if I had if I was the one making the move, I would feel so ashamed. And the evangelist just went back inside her husband. And I was just watching her movement, and I could hear her just saying, that's okay, because her husband, feel away, and I feel away just the same. But tell you
Mhm.
what, after when they asked Mary, I knew that Mary wasn't the one to hug her. And Mary did, but there was this something still. And by the time I was about to move, I saw the evangelist went over, and I tell you, there was a transformation. And I said to myself, God maybe would have had me to do it, but I delay, and so that's why he had to insist. So I'm just showing you that as an example. You understand of how
Right.
you feel the urge sometimes, and you deny yourself of doing it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that story with us this evening, Mrs. Smith. And thank you for coming on this episode of the podcast.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, as I've said before, Soul Fam, our guest today is Miss Noreen Daley. She's a communications coach and event host and podcaster of Making It Last. And she's here today to share her story about how she was born to empower. So, at this time, good evening to you, Miss Noreen Daley.
Mm.
Sorry. How
Speak,
are you?
speak it over my life. Speak it over my life. Good
Amen.
evening. Good evening. Thanks for having me. Mm.
And thank you for accepting my invitation to come and share your story. Let me tell you, people, this is such an honor for me to be having conversations this evening with Miss Daly. So, Miss Daly, reading your biography on your website, you mentioned that you were born and raised in Mandeville, still living in Mandeville.
Mhm.
How was life there as a child growing up?
Hmm. Several adjectives come to mind, or several words, but I think for me, I've lived a very fulfilled life, if that's a way of describing it. I don't think some people would think, because a lot of my life has been centered around NCU and West Indies colleges, I've lived a sheltered life, but I really don't think I have. I think because of growing up in that environment, I've met some people, I've been able to have some experiences. I've 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 had a good life, and I continue to have a good life.
Indeed, indeed. So, Miss Daly, if you can remember, how were your school days, whether it be high school or university?
Hmm. Mm. I was always active in school, not physically active because that's really not my strength. I'm not physically inclined like that. But I was always involved doing something. So I think I was quote unquote one of the popular ones from primary school and high school. And I think singing was one of the things that made me popular in primary school and high school. That have always prided myself in being involved in things where we give back. One of the things, even within the department, that COVID has somewhat messed with, but we're getting it back on target is DCS Arms of Love Akeem. It's a group
Okay.
where we go out and we visit Hanbury Home for Children and Curfew Home for the Aged and just really interact with them and do different things. That's something that we've done over a period. Outside of that, I believe as a commission JP, that is also a way that I give back because
Mhm.
you do know that is a service that, as a JP, that we're not paid for it. So it is also a way of me giving back.
Giving back. So
Mhm.
how is that going? How are those going for you?
I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I remember years ago when I always, some people might not understand, especially if they're not from Jamaica, what JP is. Justice of the Peace. In the US, they call it a notary public, where we certify documents, do other things. I, it is something I actually enjoy doing. And I remember years ago when somebody suggested that I actually become a Justice of the Peace because they believe that because I'm an educator and that I know a lot of people that it would be something good to do. And I know that I've been doing it now for several years. I understand why. Because it's much easier when you try to find somebody who actually knows you. Because when you try to go
Mhm.
to a GP and they really don't know you, they really are not supposed to certify something if they don't know you. So I think I've been able to impact people in my space because of being an educator and I know a lot of people. So I've been able to provide that service for them with ease.
Awesome. And
Mm-hmm.
I tell you, in Jamaica these days, if you don't have a JP to certify your documents, I'm sorry for you.
Yes,
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 but
yes.
as I
Mhm,
as I've mentioned before, people, that it is such an honor for me to be, having conversation with Miss Daly, because
mhm,
I know her in the light of being the DCS chair, the
mhm,
Department of Communication Studies,
mhm.
chair at Northern Caribbean University. So, Miss Daly, at what point in your life did you realize that communication was your passion?
You know, in high school, if you
Hmm.
find my high school yearbook, what you're gonna see in it is that I wanted to be a lawyer. Hmm.
Hmm.
And when I started college, at the time it was Western College, I wanted to do communication, but they didn't have enough credits at the time for me to even do it as I wanted to do what at the time what they call general studies. And I wanted
Hmm.
communication to be honest. And they didn't even have enough communication credits at the time for me to study it. And I ended up doing history and minor in English. And when it came time for me to do graduate school to do my master's, that is when I was able to do communication. Since then, it has, I won't want to say it has become my life because
Well,
it,
it
it
sure
is
does.
literally, it literally
Yeah.
has. So it's something that I've always wanted to do. But I think every single thing that I've done in my life, Hakeem, has pointed me and has taken me to where I am now and what I am doing now, actually, as department chair and other things on the side, podcast and other things. So I, and if people get nothing else from me being in this space today, every time an experience, an opportunity comes, make use of it because years later is when it's all literally going to come together. So when I say that everything that I have done to this
Mhm.
point has brought me to this moment, it literally has. It has.
Okay, Miss. Well, yes, it has, and
It has.
I'm sure it has opened numerous doors for
It
you,
has.
Miss Daly.
It
So
has.
after realizing now that you did
Mm-hmm.
communications, or you went ahead and you did
Mm-hmm.
studies in that
Mm-hmm.
field of communication. What were some of the doors that it opened for you? You said that
Hmm.
you are now the department chair. You are a podcaster. What other doors did it open?
While while as full-time faculty some
Mhm.
years ago, the then chair, Elaine Oximendi say, I I keep telling her that whenever I'm in a space to call her name, I must call her name because she decided that I should start teaching debate and argumentation.
Mhm.
I didn't have a choice in the matter, Akeem. Cut a long story short, out of that class,
Mhm.
I have been introduced to different persons that have allowed me to have other experiences. And I'll give you just one. Because of teaching that class, I met Jermaine Barrett at UTech, who introduced NCU to a particular debate format that's used at the tertiary level, British parliamentary format. Because of that, NCU ended up going to the World Universities Debating Championships in India. I never dreamt of ever going to India. So it has allowed me to visit other places that I never thought I would have been able to. India being one of them, Philippines being another one. And even outside
Mhm.
of that, because of debating, I met Michael Hester, Dr. Michael Hester. And because of that, DCS now has an ongoing relationship with that university. So because of that, I have met people who, because of that, it has created other opportunities for even where I work and organizations that I am a part of.
Well, yes, that's a big opportunity right there that communication has opened for you.
Definitely.
So having opened the door of being the chair, you are still on the chair of the communication studies department.
Okay. Hmm.
Yes, yes, Miss Daly. How
Hmm.
is this experience going for you? Being the DCS chair, how is that going?
How's it going?
Yes, ma'am.
There are challenges. I'm not gonna act as if every day I get up and it's all, you know, as they would say, hunky dory. But it is more pleasant that it is unpleasant because I don't have a typical day, but one major component of my days is that I provide service and I try in some way to make life easier for all that I come in contact with. So it's been interesting. I love the fact that I play a role in helping people on their life's journey. So I think for me that is the biggest point for me, or the most interesting thing for me.
Mhm. Awesome. And being the DCS chair is a big thing for us because you said that we always gas you up, but in truth and in fact, Miss
Hmm.
Daly, you are our DCS mother. I would
Thank
say,
you.
right, Queenies, and right, Matthew. We can say that, right? She is our DCS mother because let me share a story real quick. You are here to share your story, but let me share this with the people because they don't know. So when I just started NCU, right? I had no idea of what the department, entails
Okay.
studying. But when I first met up with some, students, some senior students, Acacia and those others, when we were first doing
Soul to
the
soul.
the soul to soul, right? The
Mhm.
soul to soul, the set design for soul to soul. Acacia,
Mhm.
Shanice, and Queenies was there, and Matthew was there too. We were doing the set design, and then the other day was freshman soul to soul, and we know how that goes. It didn't turn out how we wanted it to be, and
Mhm.
we as freshmen, Matthew, Queenies, and the rest of us, we stuck it out, and you were there in that moment to say, hey, you are a freshman, you don't know much about communications as yet.
Mhm.
But the fact that you stuck it out says much about you. as freshman. And as Matthew said, it was quite an adventure for
Mm-hmm.
true.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite an adventure. So let me tell you, when Miss Daly says she's all about empowering, she is about empowering. And if she's going to big you up, she's going to big you up because she loves to affirm. Let
Mm-hmm.
me tell you that. She loves to affirm young people. So Miss Daly, having that you are all about empowering young people, right, to their fullest potential, and you guide them in becoming better versions of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about doing this?
I'm going to piggyback on something that Madam Smith said earlier, because I do it unconsciously, and when she highlighted it earlier, I realized that I actually do that because I do make sure that I get to know persons and find out what their strengths are. And even if it is that they don't think it is something that they can do, I try to nudge people and provide opportunities for people to grow. And one of the things that as a department we're always doing is whenever an opportunity comes up for people to continue to hone their craft, because you're not going to get everything within the classroom. So the different productions, when external entities reach out to us recently, Sportsmax reached out to us because there is a Commonwealth Games that's coming up and they wanted some students. We don't hesitate when opportunities like that come up. When I hear of other opportunities that I know people can benefit from that will help them to grow, I literally make an effort to point them in that direction. So I am always open. People know that I'm always open to find opportunities for not for more often than not for other people to benefit from. So that even in recent times, Akeem, I've had to say to myself, I'm always doing this for other people. I also need to grasp some of these opportunities even for myself. So I try to make
Right.
sure that I strike the balance.
Awesome. And let me tell
Mm-hmm.
you, when opportunities come, do take them because opportunities come but only once. Come but
Yes.
only once.
Yes.
So you have to take them as
Yes.
they come. And let me tell you, DCS full of opportunity.
True.
Bad.
True.
Full of opportunity. So that's why
True.
I'm going to be a little biased now, but DCS is, and it is not being biased, but
Mhm.
DCS is the best. We can say that for sure. DCS
It
is
is.
the best department.
Mhm.
You know what? Let me continue. So, Miss
Uh-huh.
Daly,
Hmm.
owning your craft in media and communication as a media practitioner and event host, a communication coach, and you are now the host of a podcast, Making It Last. What is the podcast? What is that podcast all about?
It's all about helping people to have better relationships. The line that I use to end and to begin is helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. Because I believe more often than not, we don't spend enough time trying to ensure that we have better relationships. Let me use the Jamaican context. I think we're a little bit too aggressive sometimes as a society. And I think sometimes, there was a program, I'm not even sure if they still have it in school, Talk It Out, the what PALS, I think it was called. I don't think we make an effort to try to have better relationships. And there's so many different components of having a better relationship with people. And it can be in the workplace, it can be in the home setting, in the church setting, because you have to you have to adjust based on the setting. So how you would handle conflict maybe at school is not the same way you're going to handle it at home. So this is my way of just trying to introduce people to different tools or different techniques to have better relationships. I'm not the expert. I usually have people come in who are experts or just lay persons just sharing their own experiences.
Right. And from
Hmm.
that, I'm sure it is a quite a good experience
It is.
empowering people in that
It is.
regard.
It is.
Definitely.
It is.
So, Miss Daly, for the young media practitioners like Quinice and Matthew
Hmm.
and the other Matthew, because I forgot that there's two Matthews
Yes.
in
Hmm.
here today.
Hmm.
So, for media practitioners like Matthew Quinice and Matthew again and myself,
Hmm.
what advice would you give to us?
Be open to different experiences and be open to constructive criticism. There are a lot of times some people believe, and especially because they're studying media, believe that, oh, I am learning this in the classroom and other people don't know this. So, and you have this air about you, you can't take what others are saying. No. Be open. Always be open. Even at my age and stage, I take corrections, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you how. Recently, I was recording one of my podcasts, and Basilia Barnaby Cuff was sitting in for a husband at the time because he does the recordings for me. And afterwards, she said to me, she said, "No, Miss D," she said, "You're rushing your name, you know. You're rushing your name when you're saying it." She said, "Slow it down." I could have said, "But who is Bass to be
Mm-hmm.
telling me this?" No, but I took it graciously, and since then, I made a conscious effort to reduce the pace because when you start getting comfortable doing something, you do it without even thinking. But somebody else is gonna say, "Hey, you can do this differently." So I took that comment and I'm open, and I always tell people when they listen or they watch my podcast, give me some feedback because I'm always trying to improve. So have what is called a growth mindset and always be willing to grow and be open to what people will say and the feedback that you will get.
Thank you for that advice, and I hope Quenice and the others were taking notes. So, Miss Daly, you said just
Mm-hmm.
now that you are always open for feedback after your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of those feedbacks that you have gotten?
Not well, not just in my podcast, even at work. I'm open to constructive criticism. I've 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 heard from people that, and one of the things that I love about the podcast is that it's very real and it's very authentic, and it is just me in another space. So just how I am, that's just how I am otherwise. So people appreciate the authenticity of it, and I am trying never ever to change that. One of the things that I want to do though, Akeem, is to have, because of COVID, it has had its positives, but I want to do more face to face because I think that brings another dimension to the
Right.
conversation. So I'm actually thinking of actually doing some live recordings and actually having an audience one of these days. So yeah, I am nobody has said that just yet, but I believe based on what will be talked about, people would actually like it because people always quote unquote up in people business, but people also want to know how to better. Well, I'd hope that people want to know how to better their relationships. So, and I'm not about gossip. It's about people sharing their own experiences because I have no time for gossip. Yeah, there are too many
Right.
things to discuss to be wasting time on gossip. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Because we realize that sharing our stories with
Yes,
others will help in some form of empowerment and helping them going through things in life.
definitely,
And
definitely.
that's why we are here today on this platform, sharing stories for persons to hear so that they can use these examples and apply it to their own lives. So, Miss
Good.
Daly, going back
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
being a guide
Hmm.
for young persons, have you ever been in a situation where you are trying to help an individual, but that individual don't or doesn't want to receive your help?
Hmm.
How how did that go?
You know, one of the things that I have learned and I continue to learn is that you can't help somebody sometimes unless it is that they are open to it. So quite recently, and even on an ongoing basis, there are persons sometimes that I have to step back, Akeem, and allow and love them literally from a distance sometimes, or step back and wait until they're ready to be guided. Because if they're not ready, it's really not going to go off well. And one of the things that I think sometimes some of us as older people is that if you don't have the respect of young people, they're not going to listen to you. And sometimes there's a serious disconnect with older ones and young people, and that is because we don't stop to listen to what is happening. And I think one of the things that God has gifted me with is my ability to stop and listen to young people. And I think that continues to be one of my strengths, where I'm able to empower, why young people listen to me, because a lot of experiences that people have and that I have had, I have no problem sharing it, because I don't think you don't have to make every mistake. You can learn from other people, because there will be other mistakes that you will make. Making sense?
Yes,
And
definitely.
some people believe that I don't want to hear anything from you, miss, or you, mister, because you don't understand. No, learn from other people and then grow. So for me, I try to listen and wait until people are open to the guidance, because I'm not gonna shove anything about anybody's throat. I use myself as an example. I remember I had older people around me sometimes who would tell me things that I didn't want to hear at the time. I didn't want to hear at the time. And if it is that you kept on literally like shoving it down my throat, I would not listen to it. When I was open to it, I learned. So I and it's not so long ago that I was young, so I don't think that it is that I can't use that as a guide. And I think if a lot of us as older people realize that, guess what, all young people want you to listen and understand, because they're only there to just learn and grow also. I find, and I have to be very guarded how I said, I find too often we're quick to bash young people. I've been in a lot of spaces, especially in the church setting, and they're quick to say, but the young people. And I'm in my mind, you're not modeling what you want the young people to do. So how you're talking and bashing the young people so much? And I have a serious problem with that. So I think we if we find a way to just coexist, older ones, younger ones, and learn and listen and grow from each other, we'd have a much better society. A lot of times with the things that are happening, and I'm not going to say that it is a cure all for what is happening in the wider society, but I think a lot of times when a lot of our young people are engaging in certain behaviors, it's because they're seeking attention and they're seeking it elsewhere rather than where they're supposed to be getting it, in the home setting. I grew up in a space where there were always a lot of persons in my house that came,
Hmm.
from immediate family members to people who were boarding to people so it's when I got much older that I had my room to myself. So that is why I live in a space and I'm alone, and people saying, but how is it you don't? Because I got to a point where no, I am comfortable being alone. I prefer being alone sometimes. When I want company, I will get the company. But you have to understand sometimes where people how people are socialized, to understand literally how to guide them.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And I am grateful that I have had a lot of people in my life who have poured into me, so now I'm able to pour into others. And I still have people who
Definitely.
pour into me, so I can pour into others.
Yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We do need those persons to pour into our cups so that we can pour into other cups,
Definitely,
because we
definitely.
cannot pour from an empty cup.
Yes.
And if we do not have the strength or what it takes to empower others, how are we going to empower ourselves to empower others?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
So I know throughout this conversation, Miss Daly, you have shared, ways how you empower people. But for the next, I would say 3 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving you those 3 minutes to empower us.
I've said it before and I'll keep saying it. Be open, always be open to new experiences. People will see things in you that you've never even thought of. Don't limit yourself. There are a lot of people. Let me use DCS as an example. There are some people come in and in their mind, all they're thinking that I'm here and I'm going to become a TV host. But guess what? That might not be what you're destined to be. Be open to the fact that you might end up being a good camera operator. You might end up being a producer. Be open. If it is that I had limited myself and said to Oxy at the time that I really don't think I should teach debates, I really think I should stick to the areas that I think are my strength. The different opportunities and different places that I have been to, I would not have been open to it. Be open, allow others to speak things into your life, and just literally be open. I can't stop saying that, because if it is that I wasn't open to this experience, I would not be department chair. If it is that at some point I wanted the podcast to be a radio show, it didn't happen. And a friend suggested, said, turn it into a podcast. I wouldn't be doing it now several years on. It would not have allowed me to meet some people from literally from all over the world right now.
Mhm.
Live your life and don't allow others to live it for you. Yeah.
All right. That is it. Live your lives and don't let others live it for you. Thank you, Miss Daly,
It was my
for
pleasure.
coming on this platform to share your story about how you were born to empower. So at this time, I'm going to open the floor for questions. If there's anybody that has a question for Miss Daly, please go right ahead and do so now.
Hello.
Hello.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. So I I had a question. Give
Mm-hmm.
me a second. It's coming back. It's coming back. All right. Here it is. So I've been hearing a lot of things since I started, and it's it's really been helping me. So currently, I am planning on transitioning into a different subject area because I
Mm-hmm.
started one and I am not passionate, not only passionate, I don't want to do it. And I can't really find a way I cannot even find the words, but it's like, how do you know when you should stop doing one thing and start another, if that makes sense?
Okay. How do you know? I don't think you ever know. Let me tell you what I mean by that. If you're at a point where you think you cannot continue, just transition and do something else, because it will make sense at a later date. It might not make sense right now. But if you're really just doing something just because, you're wasting time and you're literally wasting your life. And life is too short to just be existing and not living. And I feel that if you're doing something just because, you're existing. Making sense, Mitzi?
A lot, a lot, a lot.
Yeah,
Not even 100, but 200%.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Bye bye.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Okay, thank you, Mitzi. Anybody else? Go with ones.
Yes, I just
I guess I would like to try something.
Hold on,
All
Matthew. Go ahead,
right.
Mrs. Rose. Hold on, Matthew. Mrs. Rose had her
I was
microphone
just
open. Go ahead.
listening in. I was just saying, listening in on the presentation, I can appreciate all that has been said. And it's something I always tell persons, embrace every new experience because that is what might take you into the destiny that you are called to go into.
Yep.
Every experience, learn something new every day, just embrace life, right? And so I can really appreciate all that was said this evening. I hope the younger persons listening in,
Mhm.
there's a teacher I used to teach at my school who says there's no fool like an old fool because you would have gone through life and had some experiences. So listen to what is being
Yeah.
said this evening, absorb it, vibe it, and live it. Thank you for the presentation. Very well done, Miss Daly.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mrs. Rose. Go ahead now, Matthew.
Alrighty, so Miss Daly, hi.
Matthew, hi.
Um, when working in the media atmosphere,
Mm-hmm,
well, not even just that, every department of life,
mm-hmm,
there will come some severe challenges. But to narrow it down to the studio setting,
mm-hmm,
where, for example, Soul to Soul, we had to literally change the set.
mm-hmm.
How does one manage certain challenges, especially in a high pressure situation? What would you do, or what do you advise those of us who may be in the hearing of our voices
Mm-hmm.
to cope with these various challenges that will happen on our various journeys?
Always focus on the bigger picture. Always. It's very easy to get caught up and start the blame game and get caught up in the different personalities attached to the different production, and that is when you might have problems. Always focus on the bigger picture. What's the reason behind the production? For me, when that happened with Soul to Soul, I had to remind myself that it was really not about us. It was really not about the person. It's really about a ministry, and it was about being able at some point to impart, to share that program with people. So I was literally livid that day and I was angry, but I had to calm down and focus on the bigger picture. At the end of the day, it's bigger than all of us. It's God's work. And with everything, there'll always be obstacles. But God knew why the program should not have gone out that particular Sabbath. And it went out another day. When you in any high pressured environment, studio and otherwise, because life is hard, life gets difficult. But you always have to focus on the bigger picture. I'll tell you why. There are a lot of battles that I fight, literally, for DCS on a regular basis. There are battles that I fight on a personal level, but I always have to focus on why I continue to do what I do. Why do I get up every day and go into work? I get up to go into work because I think in some way I can make life better for all of you, those who are yet to come and those who are still there. So for me, I have to focus on the bigger picture and remind myself that what I am doing is God's work. It is bigger than me, it is bigger than those who I have to fight with to do what I need to do. So you really, Matthew, just have to focus on the bigger picture. And sometimes the bigger picture might seem a little fuzzy and a little hazy, but it's still there. Yeah. Make sense?
Oh, it makes complete
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am definitely gonna sleep better tonight.
Good. 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 And I will tell you this, and I didn't say it before. One of the things that will help people to stay empowered, you have to be careful who you surround yourself with.
Right.
You know, I one of the things that helps to keep me sane so I can function in all the spaces where I function is that I have a very good support system. Very good. When my mother died some months ago, when my father died some years ago, some people showed up for me, and people continue to show up for me. And you have to be you have to ensure that you have people that you can actually lean on. And I'll tell you what I mean. Because I am somebody who persons are always leaning on me. If I'm not careful, I am always the one taking on things or people's stress, so to speak. But there had to come a point, even in recent times, that I had to just step back and lean on other people. So you have to ensure that you have people that you can lean on. And you will know who those people are, because sometimes we see the signs and we ignore the signs. If you're in a class with people who are always competing and they always want to know what grade you've gotten in a test or what grade you get, but yet when it's time to do the assignment, nobody can say, oh, but I found this resource that you can't. Watch those things. Don't ignore them.
Right.
Yeah, don't ignore them. because and there are people who will only be around you or attach themselves to you because of what they can get and because of a particular time period. And when that time period is up, their time is over. And there is no, and it might sound cold and harsh, but it's actually the reality. There are some people who will only be your friends for school life, and that's it. You end up being hurt or being disappointed when you think that it goes beyond that. When you're growing up and some people is your church friend, there's nothing wrong with that, you know. They're there for that space. And there are some people who transcend all spaces. When you have those people, nurture them, because trust me, they're the ones that are gonna help you to get through life. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you very much
You're
for
welcome. You're welcome.
wow answering my
We have time for one
question
more.
tenfold.
Yeah.
I would say thanks very much.
Not a problem. Not a problem. I think Matthew Thomas has a question.
Yeah,
Akim.
Yes.
do we have any time for one more question?
Yes.
Okay,
Go.
so real quick, sorry. You it was stated earlier that you have a podcast that speaks about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So as freshmen or as we fellow freshmen, are joining the DCS family and embarking on the journey,
Mm-hmm.
what are some tips or some advice you would have in terms of building relationships here at NCU and DCS as well? Because freshman, you're coming into a new environment and it feels as if you are the cat in the lion's den. So what advice or tips you know would you give to us freshmen or any other freshman listening going into a new space or environment to help build a relationship for the greater good?
Just be willing to learn about people, and be open to learning about them in other spaces. People are not just who they are at school. People are not just who they are at church. So when the opportunities present themselves, Matthew, for you to get to know them in other spaces, get to know them in other spaces. So you will then make that decision, or be able to say, okay, this is somebody who I will want to continue my life's journey with, or this is somebody I probably just need to just stay far from. That would be my best advice. Get to learn about people in different spaces. Yeah.
Okay,
When the
all
opportunity presents itself to do that. Because yes, we're going well, we're going back into another virtual school year, so to speak, or at least a partial. So you might not be able to know people as you would want, but you can still get to know people otherwise, and make the effort to do that. Yeah. Or even
right, okay.
or create the opportunities to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for that, Miss Lily. Thank you.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Thank you guys so much for your
Hold
question.
on, hold on,
Okay.
just some question. So,
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Mitzi
2
here
minutes.
again. So, Miss Noreen Daley, I'm
Yes, Miss
seeing
D.
where you are a communication coach,
Yes, ma'am.
event host, and
Yes, ma'am.
podcaster. I have to put my accent on for these, right? And seeing
Okay.
that everyone is here, I'm sure I want to know, how do we get in contact with you, darling? How do we speak to you, communicate to you?
I am. I am. I
Tell
am.
us
I
the
am.
tea, ma'am.
I am on Insta, Noreen Daily Jam, so you can DM me there. I am on Twitter. I am on Facebook. I'm on different social media platforms. I mean, several persons in this space actually have my number. So outside of this space, you can get my number. So yeah, I am accessible. I am. I am. I
Thank you,
am.
thank you, thank you, thank you. That's all.
Not a problem.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Missy. And thank you, Miss Daly,
It was my
for
pleasure.
coming and sharing your story with us. It was indeed a good conversation, Miss Daly. So at this time, we are now going to our affirmation. Empowerment is about letting go so that others can get going. As we make our way through this thing we call life, and with the different roads that we have to take to get through it, at some point on the journey, we need to be empowered. On that same journey, to make it all worthwhile, we need to take someone with us. So, what are we going to do to ensure that this happens? First, we need to empower ourselves to be qualified enough or to be strong enough. And by doing that, we will then have the required strength we need to be able to empower others and to help them rise again. Going through this life is no easy feat. Some of the seniors have made it through and have done pretty well in doing so. But for us, the young ones who are still in the healing process, I would say, needs a guide to become better versions of ourselves. Today, we have met one such guide, Miss Noreen Daley, who is passionate about empowering the youths and making them the best version of themselves. Today, I am affirming that I live to inspire, motivate, and empower. That's it for today, folks. Again, we say thanks to our guest, Miss Noreen Daley, our viewers, and our sponsors, Purple Aqualist Pro, Goldman Pharmacy, and Estimate Harvey Productions. To my technical team, I thank you for always making social media your priority. Join us in this same space and time next week. We will be listening to another story that will help us to convalesce in the right direction. I am your host, Akeem Art, signing out. Continue to refill your soul and to be grateful for your blessings. Have a very good afternoon.